For 3 months, the male pilots of the 23rd Fighter Squadron had been calling Lieutenant Sarah the rookie, claiming she was too inexperienced for real air-to-air combat. But when 8 enemy jets attacked their formation and conventional tactics failed, Sarah would shoot down every single hostile aircraft in 12 minutes and reveal why her personnel file was classified above their clearance level. Welcome to Hidden Valor. This story begins at Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina, home to the 23rd Fighter Squadron, one of the Air Force's premier F-16 units. The squadron operated the latest Block 70 Fighting Falcons, equipped with advanced radar systems and state-of-the-art weapons that made them among the most capable air superiority fighters in the world. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, 26 years old, had been assigned to the 23rd Fighter Squadron for 3 months. With short black hair, focused dark eyes, and a quiet demeanor that her squadron mates interpreted as inexperience, she flew with technical precision that most pilots mistook for overcautiousness. But what the 23rd Fighter Squadron didn't know was that Lieutenant Chen's assignment was part of a classified program that placed elite test pilots in operational units to evaluate new combat techniques under real-world conditions. The squadron was led by Major Jack Morrison, a 15-year veteran with over 2,000 combat hours and a reputation for aggressive tactics that had earned him respect throughout the fighter community. Morrison commanded through intimidation and experience, demanding excellence from pilots who understood that air-to-air combat was a profession where second place meant death. Morrison had viewed Sarah as inadequate from her first day at Shaw. Her flying was technically perfect, but lacked the aggressive edge he believed was essential for air superiority missions. Her reluctance to engage in the competitive banter that defined squadron culture made her an outsider in a community that valued conformity. "Chen," Morrison announced during the Monday morning briefing, his voice carrying across the squadron ready room where 8 F-16 pilots prepared for the day's training missions. "I've been reviewing your performance metrics, and frankly, your flying lacks the killer instinct necessary for air-to-air combat." Sarah looked up from the mission planning materials she was studying, maintaining her professional composure despite 3 months of constant criticism from squadron members who questioned her capabilities. "Sir, which specific aspects of my flying need improvement?" "The problem isn't technical skill," Morrison replied with the dismissive tone he used when establishing authority. "The problem is that you fly like you're afraid of your aircraft. Real fighter pilots push their jets to the limits. You fly like someone who's worried about breaking something." This had been Morrison's consistent criticism since Sarah's arrival. Her flight profile showed conservative energy management, cautious engagement parameters, and defensive positioning that he interpreted as fear rather than tactical discipline. "Sir," Sarah responded calmly, "I prioritize mission completion over aggressive maneuvering. Isn't successful task execution more important than impressive flying?" Captain Mike Williams laughed from across the briefing room. "Chen, you can't complete air-to-air missions if you're afraid to engage the enemy. Your flying is so conservative that real adversaries would eat you alive." Captain Danny Rodriguez nodded in agreement. "Sarah, we've been trying to help you develop the mindset necessary for air combat, but you're still flying like a student pilot. In a real engagement, that hesitation will get you killed." The truth was that Sarah's flying reflected techniques developed through years of experimental test work that prioritized precision over aggression. But Morrison's definition of fighter pilot competence was limited to the aggressive tactics that impressed people who confused recklessness with courage. "Chen," Morrison continued, "until you develop the killer instinct that separates fighter pilots from transport drivers, you're restricted to training missions only. No combat assignments until you prove you can handle real air-to-air engagement." Sarah had endured 3 months of this treatment while maintaining her cover assignment and continuing to evaluate combat techniques that the operational Air Force hadn't yet adopted. Her real mission was to test whether advanced tactics could be integrated into standard squadron operations without revealing their classified nature. The breaking point came during Thursday's training exercise when the squadron was conducting air superiority practice against simulated enemy forces. Morrison was leading a 4-ship formation that included Sarah when their training scenario was interrupted by an emergency that transformed routine practice into actual combat. "Ghost Rider Flight, this is Control." The air traffic controller's voice crackled through their radios with unusual urgency. We have multiple unknown aircraft penetrating restricted airspace. Vector 270 degrees, Angels 20 for immediate intercept. Morrison checked his tactical display, which showed 8 aircraft approaching from the west at high speed. Control, what's the threat assessment? Showing probable hostile intent. You are cleared to engage if necessary. Morrison's demeanor shifted to combat leader. Standard engagement profile, beyond visual range missiles at maximum effective distance. Sarah monitored the tactical situation while analyzing the enemy formation patterns. The approaching aircraft were flying in coordinated pairs that suggested experienced pilots using advanced tactics. Ghost Rider lead, this is Phoenix, Sarah transmitted. I'm showing unusual formation patterns on the approaching aircraft. Recommend caution with standard engagement procedures. Morrison's response was immediate and dismissive. Phoenix, maintain formation and prepare for standard BVR engagement. This isn't a classroom exercise. The enemy aircraft were now within 50 miles and closing rapidly. Sarah's analysis of their flight patterns indicated tactical sophistication that conventional intercept procedures might not effectively counter, but her suggestions were being ignored by a squadron leader who had already decided she lacked the experience for tactical input. Ghost Rider flight, bandits at 40 miles, multiple groups. Prepare to engage with AIM 120s at maximum range. Sarah watched her tactical display with growing concern. The enemy aircraft were not flying like typical adversaries. Their coordination suggested they were specifically trained to counter the standard tactics that Morrison was about to employ. All Ghost Rider aircraft, Fox 3, Fox 3. Morrison's transmission indicated he was launching beyond visual range missiles at the approaching threats. The engagement that followed lasted exactly 12 minutes and redefined everything the 23rd Fighter Squadron thought they knew about air-to-air combat. The enemy aircraft responded to Morrison's missile launches with coordinated defensive maneuvers that indicated advanced electronic warfare capabilities and tactical knowledge that surprised even Sarah. They were not just avoiding the incoming missiles. They were positioning themselves for a coordinated counterattack that exploited weaknesses in the standard F-16 formation. Ghost Rider 3 is hit. Captain Rodriguez's voice carried panic as his aircraft took damage from enemy missiles that had been launched with precision timing. I'm losing hydraulics and electrical systems. Ghost Rider 4, multiple missiles tracking. Captain Williams was conducting defensive maneuvers that were depleting his chaff and flare countermeasures without effectively defeating the incoming threats. Morrison found himself facing a tactical situation that his training hadn't prepared him for. The enemy aircraft were using coordination and electronic warfare techniques that rendered standard F-16 tactics ineffective. Phoenix, engage at will. Morrison's transmission carried desperation as he realized that conventional approaches were failing against adversaries who had clearly studied American fighter tactics extensively. Sarah's response transformed the entire engagement. Instead of using the beyond visual range tactics that the enemy had prepared to counter, she employed techniques developed through years of classified test work. Her approach combined energy management, electronic warfare, and positioning strategies that exploited vulnerabilities in coordinated enemy formations. Her first engagement eliminated 2 enemy aircraft using missile shots fired from angles that conventional tactics didn't utilize. Her second attack eliminated 3 more enemy aircraft using tactics that combined vertical maneuvering with electronic warfare techniques. All hostile aircraft destroyed. Area secure, Sarah reported calmly. The radio silence that followed lasted nearly 30 seconds before Morrison found his voice. Confirm 8 enemy aircraft destroyed by single friendly? Confirmed. 8 hostile aircraft eliminated. No friendly casualties. When the flight returned to Shaw Air Force Base, the entire wing was waiting on the flight line. Word of the engagement had reached every unit on the base, and pilots from multiple squadrons wanted to see the pilot who had single-handedly defeated 8 enemy aircraft using tactics that redefined air-to-air combat capabilities. Morrison was the first to approach Sarah as she completed her post-flight procedures. His expression showed a mixture of amazement and confusion that reflected his complete re-evaluation of everything he thought he knew about her capabilities. Chen, what you just accomplished should have been impossible. How does a rookie pilot defeat 8 experienced adversaries using techniques I've never seen before? Sarah removed her helmet, revealing the calm composure of someone who had just completed a routine training exercise rather than impossible combat. "Sir, I'm not actually a rookie pilot." Morrison studied her face, beginning to understand that his assumptions about her background had been completely incorrect. "Then what are you?" Sarah looked around at the assembled pilots who had spent 3 months questioning her capabilities. "Classified test pilot, experimental tactics development program. I've been assigned to evaluate advanced combat techniques in operational environments." The revelation hit the squadron like a shockwave. Captain Williams stepped forward with obvious respect, replacing his previous mockery. "Sarah, you mean you've been testing new air combat tactics on us for 3 months?" Sarah nodded. "The techniques I use today are the result of 5 years of development work that's classified above standard operational levels. My assignment was to determine whether these methods could be integrated into regular squadron operations." Morrison began to understand the larger picture. "Chen, your flying always seemed too perfect, too precise. We thought it was overcautiousness, but it was actually advanced technique. Sir, I apologize for the deception, but the test program required that I operate under standard squadron conditions without revealing the classified nature of my background." Rodriguez approached with genuine admiration. "Sarah, what you did today wasn't just exceptional flying. You redefined what F-16s can accomplish in air-to-air combat." 6 months later, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen was promoted and assigned to lead the Air Force's new Advanced Tactics Development Squadron, where she trained other pilots in the techniques that had proven so effective against sophisticated adversaries. Her engagement with the 8 enemy aircraft became a classified case study that revolutionized Air Force air-to-air training programs, demonstrating that advanced techniques could provide decisive advantages even against numerically superior and well-coordinated enemy forces. Morrison became one of her strongest advocates, frequently telling other squadron commanders, "Never assume you know what someone is capable of based on their apparent experience level." Sarah often reflected on her 3 months of being dismissed as a rookie while secretly evaluating techniques that would reshape air combat doctrine. She had learned that effective testing required not just technical capability, but the patience to endure misunderstanding while gathering data that would benefit the entire Air Force. Sometimes the most important missions are the ones where success requires accepting temporary misunderstanding in service of long-term advancement. And sometimes the pilot everyone dismisses as a rookie is actually the person who will redefine what's possible when conventional wisdom meets innovative technique. If this story inspired you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that expertise often masquerades as inexperience while working toward goals that others can't yet understand. Let's keep celebrating the hidden champions who prove their worth through performance that redefines what we thought was possible.